Hello, friends. I'm Jeremiah Adams, and this is another Baha'i Exploration series. And this is the Dispensation of the Bab with Dr. Boris Handel. And just to give you a little bit of background information on our speaker today, Dr. Boris Handel is a professor of education at the University of Notre Dame, Australia. He is the author of Mirza Mehdi, The Purest Branch, Varka and Ruhala, Eve Nicklin, She of the Brave Heart, The Kamsis, A Cradle of True Gold, a trilogy of consecration, El Concurso in La Alto, and Muhammad, Profeta de Dios. His most recent book, Qudus, The First in Rank, will be published in 2024. Dr. Handel has written over 100 articles, books, and reports in the field of education. I apologize if I mispronounce a lot of those. And today, the presentation series that we're actually speaking on is the Dispensation of the Bab, and this is part one, and it's titled the Divine Revelation. So the first presentation pertains to the divine philosophy of the Bab as a fresh theological framework about the nature of God and his creation. And in the context of God's progressive revelation throughout history, it will also discuss the nature of the revelation of the Bab, important events of his life, and on the vastness of his written works, particularly on the Qayyúmu'l-Asmá and the Persian Bayán. An analysis will follow on the many purposes of the religion of the Bab, including its greatness, the universality of his mandate, and the aggressive opposition to the new teachings attracted in the 19th century Persia. So, welcome.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Congratulations for your good pronunciation of Spanish. The truth is that some of my books are in Spanish and some are in English. Okay, thank you very much to the local spiritual assembly of Clearwater for giving me this opportunity to introduce my new book, which deals with the dispensation of the Bab. As Jeremiah said, the first part of these presentations concerns the divine revelation, the philosophy of the Bab, the divine philosophy of the Bab. And then the second presentation deals with his writings. The third is about the spiritual teachings of the Bab. And the fourth is on the him whom God shall make manifest, which is the promised one of the Bayán. And then finally, we will deal with the loss of the Bayán that has been brought into the Baha'i faith. So I anticipate that you are going to ask me a lot of questions, but if you just please hold on some of the questions, which will be deal with later on. Talking about the revelation of the Bab is like trying to describe an ocean. So if you have ever tried to describe the Pacific Ocean, you will notice that you will be in trouble because you will have to describe the coastline, the depth, the type of creatures living inside the ocean, the geology of the ocean, the climate, the people who live there, and that will never end. So talking about the revelation of the Bab, as well as the revelation of Baha'u'llah, is as well as a very difficult undertaking that I will try to cover probably as on the surface, because the purpose is for you to immerse yourself into the ocean by yourself. So I will be more than happy to help you, to assist you in that process. The first topic is about the divine revelation of the Bab. But to talk about the revelation of the Bab, probably we need to talk about a bit of history about the Bab, about his faith. Let me start with the PowerPoint here. Let me share the screen now. And here we are. Beautiful. Perfect. Great. So this is the book that I finished. I published it last year. It is a book that was very challenging to write because of the complexity and the vastness of the topics. Especially considering that there are other wonderful books about the Bab already in the market. So what I wanted to do is to write a book which is different from the other books, okay? Because my assumption was that writing about the Bab, there are so many ways, so many points of view to write about the Bab. And I remember reading an interview about the one who won the Pulitzer Prize. He wrote a biography about Abraham Lincoln, and this was the 1000th biography that has been written about Abraham Lincoln. And there was some skepticism about whether he's going to win because this is one more book about Abraham Lincoln. But as he said, there is always another view, another point of view to present. And the way I deal with this book was to, first of all, let the writing of the Bab talk about his faith. So what I did is that I collect as much possible the writings from authorized translations and provisional translations. And what I did, I sort of started from zero, putting these quotes together, these quotations together, which were huge. I mean, could you imagine putting it into piles, physical piles? I'm also helping with a special software and trying to discover themes that were emerging. While I was trying to sort of condense these topics, collapse these common quotations together, which is a technique called thematic approach. Is very much used in content analysis. What I did is I came with a set of categories which were at the same time contrasted with the Baha'i writings. So at the end, I came with a book, with a narrative that the teachings of the Bab were taught using their own writings, rather than my own commentary. So you will see in this book very little of my commentary. Is probably sitting in the background, organizing the material. But the idea is that from my observation, I noticed that many people, many friends didn't know much about the writings of about the faith of the Bab. Basically, they knew that he was the herald of Baha'u'llah, that he was an independent writer, but their narrative sort of ran short to know what is it that the Bab taught. Of course, the Bab was a prophet like Muhammad, like Jesus, like Moses, who really explained a huge amount of spiritual truth, social truths. And what I wanted to do is just to unveil this, make them explicit through their own writings, so people get an appreciation of the greatness of the faith of the Bab, that he was an independent prophet with their own books and with very unique teachings. Although his teachings are inseparable from the teachings of Baha'u'llah, his teachings, the teachings of the Bab themselves are unique, are special, different, and of a special attraction. So much that, as you know, about 20,000 believers gave the faith for the life for the faith of the Bab. So having said that introduction, so I invite you to look at the book with this spirit, to look at his own words, to look at his own writings, and for you to enjoy this beautiful faith, which I enjoy. It was for me like writing the Gospels, you know, it's, the Quran is such a beauty, such a richness which is there. Good. All right. So having said that, then we can move to the first slides. And then remember that the Bab was a prophet comparable to Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad. His name was Sayyid Mirza Ali Muhammad, and was Sayyid is a title, which means a descendant from Prophet Muhammad through both his father and his mother. And that's why his family was highly respected where he was born in the city of Shiraz. His chosen title was the Bab, means the gate, and he called himself, I am the Bab, the gate of God. And he also refers to himself as the remembrance of God and the primal point. So later we are going to analyze what these titles imply, because there is a lot of wisdom and knowledge about these titles. But for the time being, we have to remember that when the Bab appeared at that time in Persia, there was a sort of tumult in the world in terms of messianic expectations, the expectations both in the East, in the Islamic world about promised Messiah, and also in the Christian world about also expecting the return of Jesus Christ. So in the East, we have two famous sages. Their name were Sheikh Ahmad and Sayyid Qasim, who they sort of foretold and warned people that the time was very close for the coming of the Islamic messiahs. They call it the Qayyum or the Mahdi. So there was a sort of a international movement with that area, that part of the world, where a lot of literature was produced, where a lot of expectations were raised about waiting for the imminent coming of this Qayyum. That happened in Persia, in other part of the Islamic world. At the same time, in the West, there was a similar type of expectations about the second coming of Jesus Christ. Two famous examples were the Millerites, who were a sect of Christianity at the beginning, in the middle of the first half of the 19th century, who were start living in colonies, in grouping in large communities, because they thought that by 1843, by 1845, 44, the Jesus Christ was coming back. And they did it based on some calculations from the Bible. Basically, they calculated, they look at a prophecy in the book of Daniel, where it was inferred that after 2,300 years, that were calculated after the Persian king Artaxerxes decreed that the rebuilding of the Temple of Jerusalem, after that date, which ended up in 1843, 1844, Jesus Christ was coming back. So there was a lot of expectations. It was an international movement. And also other groups in Europe, like the Templars, the German Templars, that moved to Palestine, to what is now Israel, and settled also a colony in Mount Carmel, also expecting the descent of Jesus Christ from heavens. So there was a lot of these expectations around the world. It was a very important time. Because particularly in the Bible, the faith of the Bab, as the Baha'is understand, was promised in the Bible through the prominent prophet of Israel, Isaiah and Zechariah, when they talk about the coming of the wonderful counselor, the strong God, the eternal Father, the Prince of Peace, where the greatness of his government will not have end, and he will reign David's thrones and over his kingdom. And he uphold justice and righteousness, and that will be a day which will not be followed by night. So many of these references are found in the Old Testament by these two Hebrew prophets. Daniel also talked about a great prince of Persia, which stand up for the children of the people will appear. And Jeremiah added that I will set my throne in Elam, Persia, and will destroy from thence the kings and the princes, said the Lord. So Elam is Persia, and that's an amazing reference about the coming of the Lord from Persia, from Iran, putting Iran, the region of Iran, in a very important context. All right. So when that happened, when the Bab came, there was a huge interest in Europe by governments, by intellectuals, about this movement that started to spread like very rapidly around Iran, got immediately on the news, and for that reason, governments like Russia commission reports, start investigating to the nature of this movement that initially were accused of political implications, but researchers from Europe, E. Brown, professor of Oriental languages in Cambridge, and then other foreigner European researchers, they start investigating and publishing about this new personage, which called what the Bab, which sort of initiated a revolution, a spiritual revolution in Iran. So for that reason, Shoghi Effendi said that never in the history of the world religion a prophet has received so much attention, so much public attention, interest from other countries, other communities. If we remember in Jesus Christ's life, we have no historical record about him. And in the case of Muhammad, we got records from their own followers. But in the case of the Bab, this news went to important media outlets like the Times of London and other major European and American newspapers. So one of the challenging things that the Bab said is that he proclaimed himself to be the long-awaited Qayyum, the promised one of Islam, the Messiah of Islam, who in the sacred books of Islam was referred as the Sahib Zaman, meaning the Lord of the Age, which, like the Christian counterpart, it has been prophesied that, or calculated, that he will appear around 1844. So it was also 1844 a point of great attention and interest. Proclaiming himself being the Qayyum was a strong challenge to the Muslim clergy. It wasn't like what happened in the Christian world, where there was an element of tolerance. Proclaiming himself to be the Qayyum was signing off automatically as a death sentence for himself, because that was considered a sacrilege, a great blasphemy, a heresy. And for that reason, the Bab and his followers immediately encountered great persecution. So therefore, in 1844, a few years after his declaration of his mission, he openly proclaimed, I am the promised one. I am the one whose name you have for 1,000 years invoked, and whose mention you have risen, whose advent you have longed to witness, and the hour of whose revelation you have prayed to hasten. Verily I say, it's incumbent upon the people of both the East and the West to obey my word and to pledge allegiance to my person. There was a time in the first years of his declaration where the Bab didn't go much public about his station as a new manifestation of God. That was the case of other prophets like Jesus, like Muhammad, until a moment when his faith was openly proclaimed. And that's the time when things start to getting more difficult for the Bab and the followers in Persia. So in the Christian world, the Christians were waiting for the second advent of Jesus Christ, which was going to be anticipated by the return of John the Baptist. And the Jewish people were waiting for a similar case for Elijah, who was going to precede the Messiahs. So all these prophecies came to being with the coming of the Bab. There were many other references to the Bab and Baha'u'llah, which in the Baha'i faith are designated as the twin manifestation of God, like in the Book of Revelations, where are referred as the two witnesses, the two olive trees, the two candlesticks, and there were also expectations in other religions, like the Zoroastrian religion, who also were waiting for two important figures, namely the Oshedar-Ma and the Shah Bahram. So the first challenge that the Bab encountered in his country was to proclaim himself to be the Qayyum. The second challenge was that he declared to be a manifestation of God with a new independent religion, like Jesus, like Muhammad, like Moses, like Buddha, like Krishna. With that came an important prerogative, which is to enunciate new laws, new religious laws, new rituals, new interpretation of the sacred writings of the past, and that imply abrogating ordinances from the Quran, ordinances from the Bible in terms of rituals and liturgy, and replace for new regulations about marriage, divorce, prayers, contributions, fasting, inheritance, and many other observances that we are going to look at the fifth session in more detail. So to do that imply facing a lot of opposition from the Muslim clergy, and that's what's happening, and is happening still in Iran. For example, one of the things that one of the challenging teachings that he enunciated was that the new treatment to women, that was at that time was a patriarchal, misogynistic society where women were hidden from the public view. And in that country, at that time, women have to be totally covered, their face covered. The houses didn't have windows because people were not supposed to look at somebody else's women. Women didn't receive education. They were in a total state of religious discrimination. Nobody can talk to them. For example, something that we do today, and we meet another person and say, "How's your wife?" That will be an insult in that country, for example. So therefore, we have the figure of Tahereh, a woman who publicly discarded the Islamic face veil, the niqab, and undermined this belief, which the Bab changed and encouraged the elevated stage of the women in that country. And he said things like, and these are the words of the Bab: "Conduct yourself with your women in the most loving manner. Believing women are like the leaf of the heavenly comfort tree. Don't mistreat them even for a blink of an eye, because were you to do so, you shall be veiled from the command of God for that very blink of an eye." And many of these remarks from the Bab talk to the position of the woman. But that was a challenge in the society. When the Bab used the concept of abrogating the laws of a previous religion, in fact, he was using a new concept called the consummation of one religion into succeeding one, meaning that he established or expanded this concept of progressive revelation, that religions, the great traditional religions of the world, succeed one after the other. But when a new revelation comes up, what's happening is that it's naturally subsumed into the other one. It realize its full potential, its full power when it is subsumed in a new one. For example, when Judaism reached the stage when Jesus Christ came, Jesus Christ says, I haven't come to abrogate the law of the Torah. I have come here to fulfill that law. So what he was saying is that the religion of the Hebrew people has been consummated, perfected into his own religion. So therefore, this act of consummation, which involved a degree of abrogation of their laws, was confronted by the Muslim clergy and was a strong challenge to his movement. The third major challenge that the Bab encountered was because of his interpretation of previous prophecies. One central aspect of this discourse is that he taught that the prophecies and teachings from previous holy books, rather than having a symbolic meaning, rather than having a literal meaning, have a symbolic meaning. And that was also very confronting. For example, when he dealt with the issue of resurrection, he said it didn't refer to physical bodies, but the revival of spiritual qualities and capacities. When he talked about heaven, he said it's not a geographical place, means acceptance of God and his messengers, while hell represented the rejection of truth. The same when he talked about the devil, when he talked about paradise, when he talked about purgatory and other things, he created a new meaning to this word, a meaning that was hidden in previous dispensations because the level of maturity and understanding, but that was very confronting because he was totally challenging the belief system of these groups. So Further, the Bab represented a progressive worldview about the development of society, not only in the aspect of religious belief, but also in many other things in terms that he praised in the acquisition of sciences, the arts, the industries, he proposed new advancements in the development of society, a new calendar, a new system of new postal systems, talk about newspapers, even talk about the telescope. So he brought a mindset, a worldview that was ahead of his times. About himself, the Bab said that he was the most mighty remembrance. The great announcement, which is a term in the Quran for this special day, the supreme testimony of God, the first while also being the last, the hidden and the manifest, the gate of the remnant of God, the gate of truth, the inscribed mystery, the exalted mystery of God, the essence of all good, the resplendent light of God, the glorious remnant of the light of God, the lamp which the finger of God hath lighted with its niche, and caused to shine with deathless splendor and true mystic fame of God, and the true mystic fame of God. Many of these beautiful titles you can appreciate in the writings of the Bab. So, therefore, the Babi faith, the faith of the Bab, was followed by the faith of Baha'u'llah, almost immediately forming a sort of a global faith, although distinct in some of their laws, for example, on some of the discourse, they form doctrinally in doctrine a unity. So therefore, when we talk about the Baha'i faith, we talk about the Babi Baha'i faith, and we say that refer to what Shoghi Effendi said, that there are the twin luminaries of the Baha'i revelation, both the Bab and Baha'u'llah. They belong to the Baha'i revelation. Okay, so with the Bab also came a lot of unexpected release of discoveries, inventions, and science, which the Baha'is attributed to the new spiritual forces that the Bab released to humanity. Here we got a number of these discoveries that followed the revelation of the Bab. I was wondering where you can help me to name those discoveries. Starting from the left-hand side, 1844, what do you think that discovery stands for? Anyone?
Unity. Unity of the world.
Yeah.
It's meant to unite the peoples and communication.
What machine is that?
The
John?
telegraph.
The telegraph. Beautiful. Excellent. What about 1859?
Looks like it might be a rudimentary telephone, or it might be some sort of phonograph.
It's
It
a
is wireless
phonograph.
communication between Baltimore and Washington.
That's right. Yes, that's right. So that's what's unique, you know. This was the AI of that time, the internet at that time. What about 1840, in the 1840s?
Could it be the steam engine?
Steam dimension, that, yeah, the laws of thermodynamics, which were used in steam ships and trains, and that was the force of the Industrial Revolution as well. 1879?
Light bulb.
Anyone?
Light bulb.
Yeah, perfect. The electric bulb, 1855.
That looks like concrete, but I don't know.
They look like the industrial production of steel. 1856.
Cement mixer.
Look like cement. Is it?
Cement mixer.
1856.
Oil?
Oil. All right. The creation of the oil refineries. It's also a big major discovery in that time. 1859.
Telegraph?
Yep, close.
Electric wire. Electric wire.
Electric wire, the laws of electromagnetism, right? 1886.
The bicycle, steam bike.
Car.
The car, the first automobile.
Looks like the Daimler-Benz Mercedes or
Tricycle.
Yeah. But it's considered the first automobile. 1858.
Looks like a map.
Yeah, what is in the middle of the map?
Zoroastrian something?
Photography?
Sorry?
Photography map?
Yeah, the first transatlantic cable
Okay.
between two continents, 1858. 1863.
The tunnel, subway? The railroad? Underground subway?
Between in anyone from England?
Oh,
The English Channel.
Yeah, it's the first train in London. Yeah. Or England, right? Supposed to be in London. The place was I wrote the place somewhere. What was it? Paddington and Forrington. Anyway,
London Underground.
1885. That's France. 1885.
Is that from France, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. He's stomping whoever it is.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. It's a dog there.
beginning of the year?
I discovered the vaccine for rabies. Major breakthrough, which was a plague in Europe. 1867.
It looks like an explosion.
It is an explosion. Dynamite, which was discovered by, guess who?
Nobel, the guy that
Nobel.
The Rhodesia guy.
The Bell Peace, right?
The guy from Rhodesia. At that time, Nobel, Alfred Nobel, yeah.
The Nobel Prize, yes. So here you got these discoveries suddenly came up after the coming of and there were many others. And there has been sort of projecting into other things, communications, into internet, for example, trains, into airplanes, and you call it. So not only that, but there was also a change in the West, where traditional belief about, especially religion, about the nature of people were challenged. Put the whole continent into confusion, looking for alternative way of thinking. You got Karl Marx, for whom religion was the opium of the people. Nietzsche, who said God is dead. Charles Darwin, who demonstrated the laws of, in a way, the laws of evolutions, and in a way challenged some conservative religious groups that were thinking of evolution in terms of biblical terms. Then we got the Herbert Spencer with social Darwinism, which in a way use the conclusions from Charles Darwin into social theory, and saying that there is a survival of the fittest, and some races are more fitted than others, and that was the foundation of some form of racism in the Western world. And then we got other people like the famous philosopher Schopenhauer, that also denied his belief in God. So these big intellectual leaders of the West sort of brought the people into a state of mind looking for the truth, we may believe that this is the result of the revelation of the Bab, who create this stage of belief discussions to sort of shake this traditional understanding of society and the individual. One person who was very prominent in the second half of the 19th century was Sigmund Freud, who also didn't believe in God. He defined a person as the contradiction of internal dimensions within the individual, the ego, the superego, the I. So there was no soul there. It was that the individual was the result of life experiences, which put the religion out of place in terms of participating in the emotional, spiritual life or development of the person. So, for example, for Freud, God was like the exalted figure, family father that we all hope to have. If that doesn't happen, that probably was leading to some sort of alterations in personality and so on. Okay, so therefore, this spiritual, biblical Christians' view about the individual were also challenged, and of course, the faithful, the communities were in a stage of confusion or search, which had influences in different branches of sociology and educational psychology. We mentioned sociology, the issue of social Darwinism, for example. But because I'm an educator, I like talking about education. Different conceptions of the human being were developed in educational systems. You probably have heard the experiment with Pavlov, classical conditioning, where the animal was offered a stimuli and he was rewarded to create some sort of behaviors. And that was the model on which educational systems at the beginning of the 19th century were built, and conditioning the students' learning based on rewards and stimuli. We got also systems as part of this confusion where a sequel of Pavlov conditioning. Basically, Skinner, what he advocated is that if you have to have good learning, you have to have a place when there is good light, good ventilation, good textbooks, the teacher follow a script, the students is well fed. If that happens, automatically education is going to happen. but he put aside all the belief, all the emotional life on the individual. The student didn't count. It's just the students were empty vessels that can be filled in, and that education is going to work because you have set up a good physical learning environment, and you will provide reward and punishment, and that will create some sort of a conditioning efficient for learning. You got Piaget. Piaget also use a materialistic metaphor. He used the plant to understand learning, where learning is a process of assimilation, like plants do assimilate nutrients from the earth to grow. Also, it's a beautiful metaphor. It's still too materialistic in terms of plants at the end are plants. Plants are specified length, height, and they cannot grow more when they are being brought to be, as opposed to beings, human beings, that we can have amazing horizons and potential. Coming to more recently times, we got the metaphor that the students, the human beings are computers, that they think like computers. So we got a brain, which is the processing unit of the computer. We have a keyboard, which is our sensors. When we register experiences, we record them, and we got the brain who processes this information. Again, a very limiting metaphor that, although look like a beautiful metaphor, like the plant, that reflects a worldview, a worldview of the human being, which is very limiting. The same we got with cognitive psychologists, where people, the result of thinking, learning is just activity among the neurons happening in the brain. Again, no space for emotions, for spiritual experiences. We are just a bunch of wires happening, producing electrical connections and creating life. Other approaches, which are supposed to be more advanced, like constructivism, say that we are not human beings, but we are social animals. And from that frame, they don't move out because we are just social animals, where the spiritual experiences are not part of it. It's typical of that. Typical of that tradition is that the man who goes to the beach, and he goes in front of the beach, and there is a sign. He says, "Animals are not allowed," and he doesn't know where to go to the beach. And then we have this beautiful metaphor of Baha'u'llah, that mind is rich in gems of inestimable value. So education can alone cause it to reveal its treasures and enable mankind to benefit therefrom. So it's not a positivist, determinist view of the human being. It's a developmental view where we don't know what is inside a child really that is going to bring forth to the world. Coming back to the Bab, what is the worldview of the Bab regarding the individual? The Bab in the Bayán says that all human beings have been created niku. Niku is a Persian word that means good, beautiful, righteous, and virtuous. So there is not the tradition of original sin in his teachings, because one assumption of the Bab is that the God creation is perfect, and that the soul is a sign of God, which live in the human heart. And and that is the home of the soul. And this soul is made to reflect his attributes. And then, therefore, Bob says he has ordained that his home be the heart of his servant. By it, the reality of existence shall be recognized, and the fashioner of men be praised, and the bounty of existence pour forth through his ever-flowing pen. So for the religion, in the religion of the Bab, everything is a reflection of God's creations. The human being, but also the material things, the animals, the things of nature, the trees, the creation is a reflection of God's attributes, to humanity, to the point that each material things can be a stone, can be a tree, animal. Inside that creature, that creation, there are signs of God that we should strive to explore, because in that we will recognize the beauty of God. So one of them is, of course, the soul, which has been created perfect, but the whole world, the whole material world, is a reflection of the spiritual world. That there is a unity between this material world and the world, the supra world, what we call it in Baha'i literature, the concord of high. There is a interdependence between this space, spiritual space, call it, where the holy souls live, and they have a direct influence of our life. So there is a connection in that. And this material world, the physical world, is just a reflection of that spiritual world. So much that everything in the creation is a reflection of God. But what's important here is definition about the child of the human being, that we are born beautiful, we are born good, we are God righteous, and we are God virtuous. And that is the message of the Bab, that everyone have a mission to perfect himself, perfect herself. So therefore, as we are going to discuss later, the teaching of perfection, latifet, is central in the teachings, spiritual and mystical teachings of the Bab. But that will be something that we will develop later on. So this is a new vision, and for the Bab, therefore, the soul is a spiritual creation reflecting God himself. This is his worldview. It's the sign of God shown by him in the world, that it may reveal unto them that verily he is in truth, he is the truth. Behold with the eye of thy heart, for verily the truth of thy being is the divinity of thy Lord revealed unto thee and through thee. So it's a spiritual conception of the human being, which in the face of the Bab has a developmental journey to perfection, that everyone must strive to perfection. Even Bab says these material things, the animal, everything created must have a capacity to be perfect, or capacity to perfect, to improve itself. And he said everything that we should do should be in the utmost perfection. So it's a phase of requiring perfection or asking people to be perfect. Therefore, the Bab create this type of a spiritual journey from the phenomenal world, which is the body, through the immortal heart, which is the stage where people attain the presence of God, reaching the presence of God, the highest stage of development. So starting from the phenomenal world, the body goes through the soul, then the spiritual intellect of the rational mind, to call it, and then the immortal heart. We got something similar in the Baha'i faith. We got the 7 valleys, the 4 valleys, for example, that the person goes to the valley of search, love, knowledge, seek, unity, contentment, wonderment, true poverty, and absolute nothingness. So it's a different way to express it, but that's how the Bab expressed the development of the human soul. He explained that this parallels the movement from the mineral kingdom to the vegetable kingdom, then the animal kingdom, the human dimension, of which is the heart, and then the gazing toward God, the attaining to the presence of God. So that's how the Bab sees the development of the human being in his age. So therefore, for the Bab, the purpose of man's life is to reveal his signs. He said every created entity in itself reflected the greater world. Everything, not only human beings, the stars, barely God has fashioned all things in the form of his divine unity. Because the Bab developed this context of all things whole share, where there is a unity of everything to the Creator. Is a spiritual, mystical unity among all things of the universe, to the point that each entity, material entity, is endowed to reflect the attribute of God. So therefore, God has made known himself to human beings so they might recognize their Creator, and that out of the grace of the pre-existent, the contingent beings may attain their supreme end. That's the arc of ascent. You get all these quotes in the book. I just using them to explain this concept. But there are many of these quotes from the writings of the Bab, so you can enjoy his own words. So for the Bab, the spiritual development of the human being is presented in terms of the arc of ascent and the arc of descent, which parallels the 7 process of creation. Excuse me. The arc of ascent, we have already described it here, is a journey from body to the immortal heart. The movement from the mineral kingdom to the spiritual, angelical stage. The arc of descent is explained by the Baha'i writings and by the Bab as complement the arc of ascent. In the arc of ascent, we move from the realm of creation, a unity in the presence of God in mystical terms. And then in the arc of descent, we complement this journey from the unity of presence of God to the level of creation. So, what is the arc of ascent? Is the movement from the mineral kingdom to the spirit of faith, to divinity. So it's a developmental journey where we're moving away from the defects of the material world to the highest level of spiritual development. The arc of descent, it doesn't mean a fall. It's just a movement from the divine through consummation and realization till is is event, put it this way, is assimilated back into the creation. But it's not, it doesn't have a negative terms. It's just a different way of expressing this the developmental journey of the human being. So in a way, it's a double-phase cycle. It has only one direction, clockwise. Is it clockwise? Yeah, clockwise, right? And doesn't go counterclockwise. And the reason why it's not counterclockwise is Abdu'l-Baha used it as an argument against the reincarnation, because that would involve going back from the highest level of development, spiritual attainment, to back to the terrestrial world. So therefore, in the arc of ascent and descent that the proposed by the Bab, there are two stages. One is creating the arc of ascent, means in the words of Abdu'l-Baha, creating something anew, and arc of descent is bringing forth. And as Abdu'l-Baha says, the station of man lies at the end of the arc of descent and the beginning of the arc of ascent. So this point here. So we can use this arc of ascent and descent to explain many things in the development of the human being. They have mystical, personal, and revelation implications, which are being explained by the Bab. So this is the arc of this descent. Again, it's not an arc of fall. It's not doesn't have a negative connotations. But it has 7 stages. One is the field, is the will, the inclination, the desire. Then is the determination, the purpose, when a receptacle should exist. Then we got the destiny, predestination, which is the link between the first and the second to count something into being. Then we got the degree and fate, which is the stage of design. The Bab call it the womb. Then the stage of execution of the event. Then the life cycle, which is called term fix. And then the book, stage of book, which is the consummation of the event. So these stages have Arabic names. That has been, of course, translated into English as you see it on the screen. Can be confusing because, for example, the third stage is called destiny and predestination, and the fourth is called fate. So in English, for us, destiny, predestination, fate may sound the same thing. They are very, very similar concepts. But in Arabic, which is a very theologically oriented language, they stand for different things. So in some of the writings of Baha'u'llah, for example, as we are going to see, he used the word predestination in a different way as fate, while in the European language, English, Spanish, French, they may seem something different. So it says a warning on that. So these are the 7 stages from the world, from the divine world back to the creation. Okay? Again, this is also development. It's not a fall, it doesn't have a negative connotation. Excuse me. So let's go to the first one, free will. What the Bab says about the will. The will says is the source of existence, it's the essence of things. It's when you accept that something exists. And there is an inclination, there is a desire that something will exist or will exist, or you want fashion to exist. So this is the minimum condition of existence. And when something exists is when something can be named, when something can be mentioned. Again, we are talking about a very broad mystical concept that can be applied to several things. The second stage is the determination of purpose. So when there is a will, there should be a source for that will, a thing, which a receptacle which can be matched to the will. That can be, well, the will is the active part. It does not have an effect. It cannot work. There is a passive part. And that is the stage of determination of purpose for things to exist. Because at the third stage is the combination of the first two, which is the third stage is the determination of characteristics. It's like what we call it the design stage of something. When we look at the specific things that are going to be part of that particular event or that particular entity. It's the connection that links these two elements, the first two, the will and determination of purpose. In the first two stages, these two stages live independently, separately. But in the third stage, determination of purpose, they come to exist, they come to being together. And Bob explained that it's like the sun and the earth, the rays of the sun. To exist, the sun must reach the earth. So it's this connection that takes place is the process of the stage of determination and purpose. Finally, at the fourth stage, we got the decree or fate. In the stage of decree or fate is when things are confirmed to have a form. In other words, it's what they call it the womb. The Bob uses this metaphor, womb. And at this stage of decree, there is still the possibility of alteration or change. And then we confirm at this stage what the event, the entity that's going to be created, what the shapes will take place, what are the characteristics. Finally, we go to the stage 5, which is permission of execution, where nothing can be changed later. It goes to the production line, the life cycle, and finally the consummation, which is the book. Book is in terms of is a metaphor for the divine wisdom, the divine part of the creation, where things go back, are consumed, are assimilated into God creation, which is the end of the descending arc. Okay, this sounds a bit mystical, but hand of the cause, Faisy, Abulghasem Faisy, put an example. And he said about these 7 stages. He said, will is you want to have a bed. You want a bed. Determination, you buy the timber. Destiny or predestination, so you bring the timber to the carpenter. Decree on fate, which is the stage of design. The carpenter take the measurements, the breast, the type of beds you want, and you confirm then, say, yes, that's what I want. Then the stage of permission is the execution. When the carpenter start cutting the timber, and you cannot change your mind, because you can say, well, I want this type of bed. No, because the timber has already been cut. And then the term fix is the completion of the bed, and the book probably is when you just read in your new bed. This is in pedestrian terms to understand what I explained before, because this simple concept can be used for more powerful concepts. For example, the concept of free choice, destiny. In society, in the current society, destiny is there a dichotomy. It's either free choice, there is no divine intervention, there is no God, or is absolute determination God. This happened to me because God had decreed this for me. Two views different. You probably have seen this in the media, literature. This contrast. Whether destiny is part of God's decision or is your free choice. So according to the Bab, using these 7 stages of creations, there is at the level of will is a divine intervention that we don't know how it works. It's the God interventions. And the whole concept of destiny for the Bab is, he says, a mystery. Nobody can understand. As much as we don't understand the God essence, we cannot understand the divine intervention. Because the mind is unable to process it. So the second stage is determination and purpose. When you have free choice, you are the receptacle, okay? You are the receptacle of that divine intervention. And that is when you have free choice. And as a result, the third stage, which is called destiny and predestination, a decision is made about the event. A course of action comes to of action where the human being is the main agent on the divine intervention. So there's an element of free choice, there's an element of divine intervention. Finally, the human being the agent for that particular decision. Okay? The next stage, which is the decree fate, which is what we call it the womb stage or this design stage, is when there are 2 types of decree of fate. One is the decree fate, and one is the impending fate. The decree fate is something that cannot be changed after this process, and the impending change is something that can be changed. In any case, we move to the next stage with the execution of the decision or the event or whatever it is, and where nothing can be changed. So alteration changes are also possible in the 4th stage. And that's why in the next stage of permission and execution, any change is harmful. Then we got the term fixed, which is the life cycle of the decision. And book is the realization or consummation of the decision or the event or whatever, of the thing, okay? So this is how the Bab proposes this level of decision. And this is a more complex view of this divine intervention, okay? So I already talked about the first 2 columns. Here you go on the left column, you got the 7 stages. We talk about what happens at the level of in each stage. So at the level of determination, there is free choice. When there is absolute freedom, divine intervention, the first one, where there is an absolute determination from the divinity, then we got the determination on purpose, the human being, the receptacle, free choice, absolute freedom. Then we got the destiny, predestination, the event, which is the middle path where things come to be. The decision is sort of being made, where the human being is the main agent. And then we have the 2 types of decree of fate, the decree and the impending. And these are the words of Abdul Baha and Baha'u'llah. So I thought I better put in because we're reading in Baha'i literature. But what's happening here is that actually Baha'u'llah, Abdul Baha are referring to the Bab's 7 stages of creation. So, for example, when Abdul Baha says that the decree fate is that which cannot change or alter, that example of a lamp. if the oil burns and is consumed, then the light will extinct, no more lights. Okay? Because it's a decree thing. No oil, no light. All right? If a person dies, the decree is that the body will be destroyed. It cannot be changed. It's a decree. It's fixed and settled. It says God, however, the Baha'u'llah says, can alter or repeal the decreed fate. But he says, as the harm that must result from such a change will be greater than if the decree has remained unaltered, all therefore should willingly acquiesce in what God has willed and confidently abide by the same. He refers to, in one of the writings, reference to the loss of a child. That happened, and you have to accept the will of God. However, the impending fate is different. In the impending fate, there is oil in the lamp, and there is a wind blowing on the lamp. You can cover the lamp and protect it from the light to be extinguished. This is a conditional fate. You can avoid it. You can protect it, and the way you protect it is through prayer and entreaty. That's why we pray. Okay, that's why we pray. But after this stage of decree fate, nothing can be changed. You may like to change small things, but according to the Bab, after prayers, after this stage, things will have their own course. And that brings to attention these 5 steps of prayer that Sheikh Effendi mentioned as pilgrim notes. It says, first step, somebody asked to Sheikh Effendi, how can we pray? He said, first of all, pray and meditate. Use the prayers of the manifestations, right? And remain contemplative about your issue. Then second, arrive at a decision and hold it during the process of contemplation. It may be seen almost impossible of accomplishment, but it seems to be an answer to a prayer or a way of solving the problem. Then immediately take the next step. Now, in the third step, it says have determination, do it, implement it. I said many fail here. Okay? But immediately, once a determination is born, take the next step, which is the fourth step, and have faith and confidence that the power will flow through you. That is probably the fifth step, the stage of execution, permission. So there is nothing you can change. Everything is done. You pray, you take the right steps. Then, in that stage of execution, just go. All right? And the right door will appear. The right principle, the right solution, and you have to have confidence because you have followed the first steps. And then fifth step says answer. Then act with tireless, ceaseless energy, and as you act, you yourself will become a magnet which will attract more power to your being until you become an unobstructed channel for the divine power to flow through you. So it is life like this, is it? It's the arc of descent. You go from will to consummation, will, determination, destiny, the design, the decree, when you can alter, change, execution, go for it. Let the time do the work till you get to the moment of realization. Um, there are even more mystical aspects to this 7 stage of the Bab. 7 stage of the Bab. Try to put in. Here you are. In more mystical terms, you can apply to the manifestation of God. Will and determination are two processes. In the first, will is the process of divinity, and determination of purpose is the stage of servitude, us, right? As human beings, servitude. Divinity is all up to God. The Bab says, reflects these two words of creation, be, and e. The command of be, something is done. In Arabic is kafkun, where the will is the primary will, and determination of is the origin of the world. We'll come back to talk about the primary will later on, but it's what in Christian literature, like the Holy Spirit, with first remembrance. It's a way to put it, not exactly. And then determination of purpose is this second remembrance. Here we're talking about in terms of revelation, all right? It's a manifestation of God, the second stage, the concept of the manifestation of God, that there are only one entity, Baha'u'llah, Jesus, Muhammad, Abraham, they're all just one spiritual entity. But when they manifest at the next stage of destiny, predestination, then they are in the process of descending into a mortal reality, human being, right? They descend in the form of what we call Baha'u'llah, Baha'u'llah, Muhammad, Jesus. They take a physical form, what is referred as the world of the heavenly court. At this stage, the next stage, which is the decree of fate, they appear in the world of humanity. And although in the first 3 stages, they belong to the realm of God, realm of unity, when it comes to the next stage, and they are known to human beings, then it's a stage of plurality. Because although in the eyes of God, all the manifestations are only one thing, one entity, when it comes to the human eye, we start looking for differences, issues of conversions, persecutions, nationality, colors. We call Islamic civilization, Christian civilization. We don't realize it's just one civilization. So people don't like the manifestation of God, didn't like what he said or how he walked, for example. So it's a world of plurality, the world of characteristics, this design world, but in the realm of revelation. Then we got permission, which is the actually process of revelation of the word of God, the term fix, life and ministry, and the book Ascension to the Immortal World. So that's one way we can look at the process of revelation of the manifestation of God using the 7 process of creation of the Bab. I think we have run out of time, is it?
Yes, we can.
I think we can stop here. I still have some more slides, but probably we can stop and stay for some questions. I hear you.
So
There's something in the chat.
the
What
audience
is
is now unmuted and they can ask their
Oh.
question. I'd appreciate it if they would raise their hand first, just so I could know who to go to. Well, while we're waiting to see if anyone else has a question, is this 7 steps, is it something that can actually be applied in one's life, independent of religion? So could you take these steps and see them as a way of actually handling your daily and affairs?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what I put the example of Mr. Faisi about the making the bed, the carpentry work. We can also use it in teaching campaigns. There must be a will, all right, an intention to do it, a willingness. There must be a receptacle. It must be the human resources. Is it? At the third stage, once you have two, you have to put them together. It's the third stage. The fourth stage is the stage of design. When you design where are we going, how are we going to do it, what materials are we going to take, okay? And then you go to the fifth stage, which is execution. At the fourth stage, you can still change things. You pray, you negotiate, you consult, change things. But when this stage of execution, you just go. And you fix things on the way, right? You can go back and say, well, okay, let's cancel this activity. No, just go and finish it, right? There's a life cycle, and then you sit back and reflect together about the result. This is the consummation, the last stage. So it works. It works very well for praying, for making beds, for teaching the faith, for understanding the revelation of God. The arc of descent. But again, the arc of descent is not something negative, it's not a fall, it's just the next stage from God to creation. And then we go back at the end. That's where Abdul Wahab said we sit at the end of the arc of descent and the beginning of the arc, and then we go through the journey of perfecting us spiritually.
Well, I don't see any questions specifically. Maybe, it will take some time for people to ponder upon everything that was discussed here, which is a lot. I mean, being able to label it in this way is actually, it was kind of eye-opening for me personally. So I'm gonna definitely go back over it because it reminds me of, there's also another talk that was given, and it's on Baha'i cosmology. And so that discusses more about the technical terms of the world of Jabarut and these things that are they seem more esoteric in nature, and then it with something like this from the Bob, it seems like it puts it in a way that can be managed, and in a way that one can actually go through and apply it in their daily lives, so that they actually benefit from it. So it's very interesting. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to the next talk.
Unfortunately, I cannot do the other slides which connect to this concept of spiritual development with quotation from the Bab. So in the next session, I'm going to put these complementary slides, which refer to the creation, the manifestation of God, the world of creations, how to recognize the manifestation of God, the various stations of the manifestation of God, but we run out of time.
Well, it was wonderful. Again, we thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you and our audience and everyone online next week, same time.
Perfect.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you very much.